Okay, so finally we'll get to our concept of economic surplus, and this is our way of measuring this allocative efficiency here. So our economic surplus is going to be the benefit to the consumer plus the benefit. So we get these two parts. Our consumer surplus is plus our producer surplus, and we're going to first think about this as per unit, and then we'll come back and think about it as the whole thing. Okay, so let's think about it per unit for a second. Okay, so we have our demand curve, marginal benefit. We have our supply curve, marginal cost, and we're going to just use the same numbers that we had before. So this is 40, 30. And to do it per unit, we need to think about, well, a specific unit. So let's suppose like the fifth one, because we know the numbers for that one. So for this fifth unit, we get this whole thing. First of all, we have this whole thing is the benefit of that one. Okay? And this benefit is distributed into three different places. Okay? So the first part, this part here is just the cost of producing. Okay? So it doesn't benefit anyone because it goes into the production cost, right? And then after that, so that gets us up to, I think this was 12.5. Okay, so it costs 12.5 to produce that one. So that one's just cost of producing. That's not our surplus. And so then our surplus is going to be these other two parts. So our surplus is going to be, well, then the firm is able to sell it for $30. So this part right here, that's their producer surplus for selling it. And the person who bought this thing really, really liked it. And so they would have been willing to pay up to 100, if I remember right. And so this part above the $30 paid, that's their consumer surplus. Okay, so this value that the consumer is willing to pay gets put into three different areas. So part of it just goes to cover the cost of producing. Part of it's kept by the producer. That's this in between the 30 and the 12.5. And the other part, the rest of it, goes to the consumer, and that's their benefit for participating in this market versus just staying home and keeping their $30, right? So we can kind of see this neat thing showing all the different parts. Now we can do this same idea using the totals. Okay, so this is just showing, so this CS in this case, the CS and the PS for this is just the economic surplus for a single unit, but we want to do for the total. So let's come back and so let's get our graph again, benefit, and I'll get our supplies, marginal cost, etc. Okay, and so we're using the same numbers as before. So we're using this is 40, this is $30, okay, and this was $10. And up here, I think was 110 was where it hit. Okay, so we get the idea. So now, if we add up all those producer surpluses, we use green, then this is our producer surplus. If we add up all the ones for each unit, and we add up all the ones for each unit, and then this will be our consumer surplus, right? And we add the two of them together, and we end up with our we add the two of them together, and we end up with our total surplus. Okay, so once again, the economic surplus is just this consumer surplus plus the producer surplus. And the easiest way, and so we can do one more thing just to kind of gain insight to this, and then I'll show you something about the calculation. So if you remember, our consumer surplus was the total benefit of that amount of units, the benefit, minus the amount paid. That was our consumer surplus. And our producer surplus was the revenue, okay, minus the cost to produce, right? Or at least the marginal cost of the production, right? So then we notice something. Well, this part of revenue and the amount paid, those are the same thing. So the amount that's paid by the consumer is the revenue for the firm. So one of those is a negative and the other one's a positive, so those are going to cancel out. So basically at the end, our economic surplus is just the benefit minus the cost, right? So this just shows us how much, and we can think of economic surplus. Finally, since it's a benefit minus a cost, we can think of it as the net benefit for the society. So we can think of it that way. And so this area, these two triangles together, represent this area. Now, typically the easiest way to do these calculations is to just do the two triangles separately, like we did before, and then put them together. If you want to, I'm going to show real quick just an alternative way to do this. So the normal way to do this, we already calculated these in previous videos. So we found that the consumer surplus was $1,600, and the producer surplus was $400. So the total is going to be $2,000. Okay, so we did that before. An alternative way is you could do it here, still using the triangle formula. You could calculate directly, and that in that case you would be doing the base is still 40, and then the height. In this case, you're getting this whole height from here, so this would be 110 minus 10. So we're calculating this whole big triangle that represents the this thing I'm outlining here in red is our economic surplus, the two parts together. Okay, and so we would end up, well, half of 40, that's going to be 20, and then times 100. So yeah, we still get 2,000. So that's an alternative way to do it, although typically you'll just calculate it from the consumer surplus and producer surplus separately, and then you will put them back together.